Oh, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, y'all. My name is Matt Shaffer, and I'm here to talk about five common ways that women push men away. This is a very pervasive thing that I work with my clients on. Let me go ahead and turn that off. And so we're going to talk about five common ways that women push men away and how to shift so that you do not do that anymore. I work with women around the country and around the world as an empowerment, transformation, and connection coach for women. And I find the same patterns happening over and over again. And so I wanted to address some of these common ways that women push men away, because just by having awareness over these patterns, it really creates a sense of power. As soon as we connect and become aware of these patterns, they start to lose their grip over us. A lot of times that power comes from the unconsciousness that we have. So for everybody joining us, Evelyn, Gentile, Kathy, Lenore, everybody joining, say hi. Give me a one. Let me know where you're watching from. I'd love that. If you're new to my channel, take a second, hit that little subscribe button and click the little bell so you make sure you get notified on all my content. And if you haven't heard yet about my course, Mastery of Connection, we've been going for about a week and a half. It's an amazing love and relationship course, and we are in the process. We're just getting into second week. It's free for those of you in my community, so feel free to head on over to masteryofconnection.com and join us over in Mastery of Connection. We've got over, I think almost 1,200 women who are just powerfully moving forward and creating amazing results. It really helps you transform your relationships from the inside out in my course, and you get live coaching with me twice a week. So hi everybody watching, feel free to put in the comments, put in your questions around ways that you push men away, right? We're talking about, common ways that women have a tendency to sabotage their connections and their intimacy and vulnerability with men. So hi Amanda, hi Ange, hi Linda, and if you have questions, put them in the comments. I will be answering them as I go. Five common ways that women push men away. So this is our topic today. I'm going to go ahead and put that up there. Boom. So let's dive into this. There's some patterns that women have when it comes to men, where they have a tendency to either sabotage a relationship or stop one from developing here in the first place, right? And one of the first and biggest ways that women do this is that they project onto a man the wounds of their past, right? And they do that by becoming reactive to their triggers. Okay, so when we talk about what a trigger is, and we're going to talk about a couple different types of projection. Okay, so one classic way that women project onto men is something that a man does will trigger a wound from their past. Can you all relate to that? Give me a one if you can relate to that. And let's talk about what that means. So say a man says, hey, we gotta hurry or we're gonna be late to this party. And he's not saying it in an aggressive way. He's not saying it in a combative way, but you're in a relationship with a man and he says, hey, can we please hurry? We gotta get to this party or we're gonna be late. And in that moment, it brings up a wound from your past, like a partner who used to be verbally abusive to you on a regular basis, or even your father who would berate you when you were late to dinner at the dinner table, right? And so because of that wound, and you're holding on to that wound, and it's sitting within you like a ticking time bomb. And then once he says, hey, can you please hurry? We're going to be late to this party. You get triggered, right? And you become reactive to that trigger. You allow all the pain comes up, and it's like the emotion of that wound becomes real for you in that moment. So all the trauma that you experienced with that man bubbles up, and you project it onto your partner. And you say, and you blow up at him, right? You blow up at him and you say, how can you say that to me? Why are you yelling at me right now, when he wasn't yelling at all, right? and you're experiencing the pain of your past trauma and projecting it onto this poor guy who just doesn't want to be late to this party, and so you can always identify that. You can identify getting triggered like this a lot of times when the scale of your response, when the scale of your reaction, or the scale of the feelings that you're feeling in response to this man's behavior is much greater than the size of the incident. Like, all this guy said was, "Hey honey, can you please, keep moving, or we're going to be late to this party." And you blew up at him, right? So when there's a big imbalance from the reaction to the original incident, that's a lot of times how you can identify that trigger. And this is one of the biggest ways that women push men away, is because if a man feels like a woman is blowing up at him and he doesn't understand why, he's going to have a tendency to pull back, and he's going to have a tendency to, go away, right? And so for you as women, like, you really get to connect to, and again, this is not just for women, this is for men and women. We get to take ownership of our triggers. Our feelings are our responsibility. Can you relate to that? We get to take ownership of our feelings, and no matter what is coming up for us in relationship, we get to ask ourselves, where is this coming from? And we get to let the triggers be the guides. Your triggers are not problems. Your triggers are not you being broken. Your triggers are here to help you. They're here to help guide you into wounds that you're meant to heal. Can you relate to me there? So when you're being triggered by any behavior of a man, instead of reacting to it, instead of being, defensive and going into breakdown mode, if a man triggers you, you get to ask yourself, okay, you get to respond to that trigger. We want to respond rather than react. Are you with me? So what would it look like for you to respond to this trigger and ask yourself in a curious way, interesting, I am being triggered. Where is this coming from? What could this be based in? Because it's clearly much bigger. I'm wanting to have a much bigger reaction to this behavior than would make sense. If he tells you, like, if a man makes an offhand comment and you want to punch him in the face for it, we get to look at, what is this telling me about myself? What is this trigger here to show me, and how can I heal through this? And then you get to communicate to your partner, hey, so I'm feeling a little triggered right now, and I want to work through this with you, but for the time being, I need a little space, right? So what's important when you're experiencing a trigger is you don't want to try to necessarily talk through it while you're in this experience with the man. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're in a triggered state, it's almost like you're in an altered state of consciousness. And so it's important for you to not try to deal with it in that moment, because you're feeling feelings, things are coming up for you, and it's your job not to try to fix it and not to blow up at the man who activated it or the person who activated it. And I'm glad we're talking about triggers, right? Because it's Thanksgiving for a lot of us here in America. And so we're going to be with our families, right? We're going to be with people who we care about, and also a lot of times people who trigger us big time, right? Give me a one if you've got people in your life that have a tendency to trigger you and make you a little crazy. And you get to ask yourself, how are these people my greatest teachers? How can I use these triggers as opportunities for me to heal? You know what I'm saying? So really ask yourself, if you feel yourself projecting your wounds onto a man and being reactive to him, what would it look like for me to respond? And by the way, keep posting your questions down in the comments. I will be answering them as I go here, and I will be answering most of them at the end, because if I answer them now as they're coming up, I won't be able to get through all the content, because I have lots of content I want to share with you, and then I will be answering your questions towards the end of the broadcast. So that's the first type of projection that I wanted to talk about, is being reactive to a man's behavior, being reactive to a trigger and blowing up at him, projecting that wound onto him and making it his problem. Your feelings are your responsibility. Are you with me? Okay, good. The second type of projection, and a second common way that women push men away or women sabotage potential connections with a man is by, I just did a video on this, but I thought it was important to reinforce this, is by having a handful of situations with a man, a handful of experiences with men, and creating a generalization, creating a story around all men. So this is very, very, very important. So this is a common one, is creating stories about all men based on a handful of experiences. So this is a big one, big enough that I'm going to put it up on the screen. Creating stories around all men. So a partner cheats on you, and all of a sudden, all men are cheaters, right? Or you have a couple partners who aren't honest with you, and all men are liars, right? It is so easy to fall into that trap because our egos have this desire to protect us, right? Our egos want to protect us. They want to keep us from suffering more wounds, right? And so your ego is going to take any incident that you experience with a man and say, well, you experienced this once. This person did something to you. Therefore, all men must do that. So it's better for you to not be in connection with this type of man, or it's better for you not to be in connection with men at all. You see what I'm saying? And so a common way that women project and push men away is by taking an isolated experience or an isolated handful of experiences and saying, well, this happened with this one guy or with this handful of guys, therefore all men do it. And that's us speaking, that's us, again, reacting from a wounded space. And Nicole says, reactive rather than proactive. I get it. Yes, exactly. We want to be really careful about being reactive. We want to really focus on being proactive in managing our triggers, in managing our wounds, in managing our emotions. Our emotions, our feelings are nobody's fault. They are our responsibility. Because when you take ownership over your feelings, when you take ownership over your emotions, you are operating from a space of power. You are taking your power back. Whenever you give your emotional well-being, whenever you give your emotional stability away to a man, away to a situation in any capacity, you're giving away your power. And I don't want that for any of you. I want every single one of you to take full ownership of your power, because at the end of the day, you don't have control over other people and you don't have control over a lot of situations in your life. Where you have power fundamentally is in your ability to manage your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions. Are you with me? So we get to ask ourselves, where are you? Ask yourself right now, have you created stories? Have you created beliefs around all men based upon your experience with one man or a handful of men? And if you have that belief coming up, ask yourself, can I absolutely know this to be true? This is something that's very, very important. When you feel yourself having this broad, huge narrative, when you create this great narrative around all men or around a certain type of men or just some huge generalization, ask yourself, can I actually know that to be true? Is there any possible way? And the answer is often no. Like, we truly get to experience every man that we encounter as an individual. And here's the thing. I am not saying don't learn from your mistakes. I'm not saying, if you date a narcissist, clearly you want to not date another narcissist and you're going to see the red flags of a narcissist and you're going to not want to date them anymore. And that's totally fine. I'm not saying not to learn from your mistakes, but I am not saying just because a man might appear a little controlling, don't assume he's a narcissist. You know what I'm saying? Like, we get to be really conscious about that. And we do dig into beliefs in my love and relationship course that started last week. We're just getting going. It's not too late for you to join, and it's free. So check it out, masteryofconnection.com. We're just getting into week 2. We spent the whole first week unpacking beliefs, and there's a lot to say, there's a lot of stuff we're unpacking right now that'll really help you. So check it out, masteryofconnection.com. Uh, Amanda has an interesting question, but doesn't my energy attract the same type of man? Your energy can attract, your energy will give you patterns, right? But it'll give you feedback on how you're showing up. Because if you're attracting a specific type of man, if you're attracting controlling men, if you're attracting emotionally unavailable men, this is mirroring back to you your beliefs. It's mirroring back to you your relationship with yourself. Are you with me? So really ask yourself, ask with curiosity, what are the types of men that I'm drawing into my life? What are they telling me about who I am? And how can I shift my understanding of self, my understanding of my wounds, my understanding of my worth, my understanding of what it means to be in a relationship? How can I change my inner dialogue in order to reflect on my relationships with other people, right? Because as you transform the way you talk to yourself, as you transform your understanding of who you are and what you're worthy of, the people you draw into your life change. You have so much power. Do you get that? This is super important. So where we've started, right, we've talked about two types of projection, two common ways that women have a tendency to push men away. The first is to become reactive to their triggers, right? And if a man triggers a wound in you, we project it onto him and we blow up at him and push him away. That's type one. The second type of projection is having a handful of tough experiences and then making up a story about all men, projecting onto all men just because one or two men weren't honest with you that all men are liars, or a different type of huge story, right? Which will then lead to us what? Pushing men away, not being honest and not letting men in to our lives. Are you with me? So we got to be careful for those two types of projection, and we get to recognize if we feel ourselves projecting onto our partners, we get to recognize, okay, I'm projecting. Okay, I'm being triggered. What is this here to teach me? What is this here to show me? How is this an opportunity for me to identify and heal and release a wound from my past? Who do I need to forgive? Oftentimes, the person you need to forgive is yourself. Are you with me there? It's super important for us to really connect into this. Okay, so let's see. Let's look at a couple questions here. I got plenty more content here to go through. Let's see. Lily says, what if what has triggered you is still off behavior, even if it doesn't warrant the reaction? Okay, so and that's a great point. So if a man's behavior triggers you, I'm not saying you don't get to bring it to his attention. I'm not saying you don't get to tell him, hey, I don't appreciate that behavior, but I am saying that we got to make sure that the level of our response to his behavior is congruent to his behavior. You know what I'm saying? We can't have the level of our response be just barreling straight out of the trigger. So as I was saying earlier, it's really challenging. I wouldn't recommend giving him feedback about that behavior while you're in a triggered state. A lot of times once a trigger gets going, once it begins bubbling up, it's like an avalanche, right? There's a lot of emotional momentum that's happening. And so I advise my clients to create like a 24-hour rule. So basically, if you feel triggered, let him know, hey, I'm being triggered. I'm going to go for a walk. This situation, this experience is triggering me. We'll talk about it tomorrow, right? But right now, like I'm gonna go for a run. I'm just gonna create some space here so I can manage this myself. You know what I'm saying? Because if you try to have a grounded conversation with your partner while you're in a triggered state, while you're actively experiencing a wound from your past, it's very, very challenging to stay emotionally grounded in that. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, don't try to manage a trigger. Don't try to have a grounded conversation around a trigger while you're in a triggered state. You gotta give it some room to breathe, but come back to it while it's still fresh. That's why a 24-hour rule is so important. And when I say 24-hour rule, I mean within 24 hours. Usually sleeping on it is the right way to do it, right? So 24 hours. So you sleep on it. He triggers you mid-afternoon. You say, okay, I need a little space. Then you go sleep. You come back to it the next day. And then you have a grounded conversation with him around it after you've been able to work through that hyper emotional space. And then you say, okay, well, this is something, this triggered me because of my experiences in my past. And now, but additionally, like I don't appreciate this behavior. We need to work through this behavior so it doesn't happen on an ongoing basis, because if you come to him in a triggered, activated state, he's not going to be receptive to what it is that you're saying, right? It's going to activate his mama trauma. It's going to, it's not going to lead to a constructive conversation. Give me a 1 if y'all can relate to that, okay? Whatever is lady had a great question here. How do we judge if it's our gut instinct, our intuition, or just a past trigger wound? Again, whatever is lovely. It's a great question. And again, intuition is extremely powerful, but intuition is going to feel more like a warning. Intuition is going to feel more like a message, like I don't know. It's going to feel more like an ambivalence. It's going to feel maybe like a little bit like a dis-ease, where a trigger is often most likely going to be like you're actively experiencing a deep trauma, because triggers are pockets of experience. They're pockets of wound from what you've experienced. And when somebody triggers you, it's not like you get a sense of like, oh, I didn't like that. A trigger tends to be much more intense because the actual trauma of what you experienced, which is stored in your body, right? It bubbles up to the surface and then boom, it blows up. So your intuition won't be that, right? The intuition won't be like a mine blowing up. It'll be more like a whisper or a feeling or it'll be much more of a guided feeling and sensation more than like an active explosion of what a trigger is, right? So guys, continue to ask your questions, put your questions in the comments. I will be answering them as I keep going here. If you haven't signed up for Mastery of Connection yet, my amazing love and relationship course where we transform your relationships from the inside out. It's an ongoing course. We just started a week ago. It's free for you as members of my community. Come on in. You get live coaching with me twice a week. It is super cool. Okay, so everybody's talking about Kathy Pitchy in the comments. I want to get to Kathy Pitchy's question, but before I do want to go to another big way that women push men away. Tell me if you can relate to this. It is when women generally, and this is a lot of times happens with women who are very accomplished, women who have created great results in their life. They go out on dates and they have a tendency to do what I call resume reading, where they show up on a date and they are listing off their accomplishments. They're listing off all the things that they've done and they've created and they've accomplished. And they just do this whole, they think that they're demonstrating value to a man by listing all the things that they've achieved in their careers. A lot of times this is because, these are women who have defined themselves primarily by what they've accomplished. Can you relate to that? And B, why do you think that doesn't work? Why do you think it doesn't work to go to a man and basically read him your resume of all the things that you've created? And I'll tell you, right, as you're thinking about this, as you're asking yourself this, I'll tell you, when you do that, that's a very masculine way of presenting yourself, right, to a man. And it comes from a masculine energy. And I understand why you would do that, because in your own life, you have defined who you are. You have created an identity around your career. You've created an identity around your work, around the things that you've achieved in various aspects of your life. And I'm not saying that those things don't have value, and I'm not saying that men don't value them. What I'm saying is you don't want to try to create value for him by doing that, because as a lot of women are saying here, it's going to scare him. It's going to push him away. And if you're in the masculine side of the relational container, if you are operating from that masculine space, he can't also be there comfortably. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we get to be really clear on, when we show up in the early stages of dating, we get to operate from our intention gets to be to operate from a polarized space. So he gets to be in his masculine, you get to be in your feminine, in that soft, surrendered, curious, inviting space. And when you're talking about your accomplishments, when you're talking about the things that you've created, you can frame them in a way that they demonstrate the depth of your heart and the depth of your passion. So you could say, instead of saying, well, you know, I've been an executive at this corporation for the last 10 years, and I've increased their profits by X%, and I've moved up the ladder, da 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 da. Instead of saying that, you could say, I love my work. I'm so passionate about the work that I do because I've helped create an entirely new culture at this company. And we've made such an impact in the world. And it makes me feel so good to be able to lead a team of like 60, 80 people. You know, like you're using feeling statements, you're talking from a connected space, and you're demonstrating your capacity to love and be in relationship with people through your accomplishment. You see what I'm saying? So it's not that you can't talk about all the things that you've done and created in the world, but do it from a space of feeling. Do it from a heart space. Do it from a way that shows the depth of your passion and depth of your love, not just that you've created these results. Because men are not going into a date asking, well, I hope this girl's really gotten stuff done in her life or else I'm not going to be interested. You know, men aren't coming from that space. Men are coming from the space of like, oh, wow, I hope that this woman, you know, is someone that I get excited about. I hope this is someone that, you know, makes me feel something. I hope this is a woman who could help set me free. Because men are consciously or subconsciously, we're craving freedom from women. We are craving sanctuary. We're craving a space where we can feel and relax and play and have fun. And one of the ways that women push men away is by not giving them that opportunity. A man doesn't want to be in a resume reading competition with a woman. You know, a man doesn't want to feel like he's in a job interview. Are you with me? I just had office hours for Mastery of Connection just now. And one of my amazing students in Mastery of Connection, she's incredibly powerful. And she basically framed dating as a job interview. And I'm like, honey, that is not the energy that we get to bring into dating and relationship. You do not want it to feel like a professional engagement. Are you with me? So that's another big way that women push men away. And so you always want to be operating from a space of, am I in my feminine, right? Am I being a feminine, connected, warm, inviting woman with him? And am I leading with feeling statements? Am I leading with vulnerability? Am I demonstrating my capacity to love through my connection with him? Are you with me? All right. Jay Green has a great question here. How do you have a conversation around your triggers without coming off like you're blaming him for your triggers? Let me add that here. Okay, so Jay Green, I love that. How do you have a conversation about your triggers without coming off like you're blaming him for your triggers? So this is a feedback process that I use a lot with my clients, and I've done videos on it, and I'm going to share it with you right now. Okay, so once the dust has settled, right? You've done the 24-hour rule. You've taken some time for that triggered state to die down. You come to him the next day within 24 hours, and you want to basically take ownership of your feelings while also letting him know the impact he's had on them. Okay, so you want to use this format. First off, you ask for permission. You say, hey, okay, can we talk about what happened yesterday? I want to share this with you. Is that cool? Can we talk about this? And he's going to say yes, of course, right? Because he wants to know what came up for you and what happened. Then you use this framework. You say, okay, when you asked me to hurry up because you didn't want to be late to the party, the story I made up about it is that, you know, the rate I'm going at isn't fast enough, that I never do anything right, and that you're mad at me because in my childhood, my dad would berate me because I was late to dinner, right? Or I was in a relationship with a man who would humiliate me every time, you know, I wasn't right on time for stuff. He was a total control freak. So, you know, and that story that I created when you said that, it led to me feeling rushed. It led to me feeling unworthy, and it led to me feeling a lot of fear and panic. So you see what you're doing there? You're giving a man the context to understand how that behavior, how that request that he made in good faith, how it triggered you without blaming him. Because what you don't want to do is say, hey, when you did that, when you said that to me, when you told me to hurry up, it made me feel like I'm not worthy. It made me feel like I was wrong. Because when you do that, you're doing what? You're blaming him for your feelings. It is not your job to blame a man for your feelings. Are you with me? And if you blame him for how you're feeling, you're giving your power away to him and you're making him feel wrong. And this is not about making a man feel wrong. This is about letting him know that when you did this, the story I made up about it was this, which led to me feeling this, right? That way you're in ownership of how you're feeling. Are you with me? So let's be clear and let's be connected to the fact that no matter what we're feeling, it's our responsibility. And then, but it is also our responsibility to communicate with the people around us how their behavior impacts the way that we feel. And then so that after you have that conversation with him and you tell him, when you said this, the story I made up about it was this, which led to me feeling that. You get to then you say, moving forward, I would really appreciate it if you would ask me in a loving way, hey, is there anything I can do to help us get out the door faster? Ask me if I need support rather than tell me to hurry up. You see what I'm saying? And then ask for what you need. Because this is a foundational thing that so many women here, I think, and so many people in general have a hard time doing. Asking for support can be very challenging. Am I right or am I right? Give me a 1 if asking for support is a challenge for you. If asking for support scares you. I know it's a major thing, right? So this is a big thing. Like, we get to be able to powerfully ask for support. Ask for emotional support, ask for physical support in our life, in our relationships. Okay. So let's see. So I got plenty more of these. So another big way that women push men away is by over supporting. Speaking of support, doormatting, collapsing your frame into his. Can any of you relate to that? So many women, especially women who are supporters, they have a major tendency to do this. So over supporting. Trust me when I say more is not necessarily better when it comes to supporting and being vulnerable and being connected to men. Okay. You do not want to, you're not going to win a man over by over supporting him, by not owning your needs, by not voicing your needs, by just giving him everything he wants all the time. That actually will devalue you to a man. And it also opens you up to relationships with controlling men. It opens you up to codependent relationships. Can you feel me there? It opens you up to relationships with men who are narcissists, with men who are abusive, with men who take advantage of that. Because if you are just this and I know you're doing it right because you're warm and you're supportive and you're loving and you have this huge heart and you just want to give. I get it, right? And you have this drive, this pull to be a doormat, and you're not trying to disrespect yourself. You're not trying to be, this you're not trying to be weak to this person at all. You're just thinking that, I want to give to him because that's how I show love. And I'm not saying you can't give to a man, but what I am saying is you get to balance. You get to balance your giving with your receiving, with asking for what it is that you want, for asking for what it is that you need, by holding your frame. I talked about this, I believe, on my last live on boundaries, by setting boundaries. Okay, so we get to practice discernment and we get to recognize that relationships are bilateral, and you do not want to be giving significantly more than you are receiving in relationship. And if you're not receiving what it is that you desire, what it is that you think you're worthy of, what it is that you think that's fair for you, you get to ask yourself, do I have the courage? Have I had the courage to ask for what I need? Because here's the thing, you can't, in all fairness, resent a man for not giving you what it is that you need if you haven't had the courage to ask for it. Real talk. Real talk time here. You get to, because you can't just sit there and quietly resent a man for not giving you what you need because he's not reading your mind. Ladies, we are not mind readers. We're not mind readers, and we need your help. Help us help you. Help, please. Like, we want to know how to support you. We want to know how to make you happy. And one of the greatest gifts you can give us is communicating your boundaries, is communicating your expectations, is communicating what you want and need to be happy, and then throwing us the ball and leaning back and giving us the space to give it to you. Don't sit there, all up in our space, giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, slowly getting more and more frustrated with us that we're not giving back to you. So ask yourself, like, how are you courageously asking for support? Tanya's asking, why is my husband so clingy? That's a great question, Tanya. So again, if we operate from the space of we train people how to treat us, I'll ask you, Tanya, how have you trained your man to be clingy towards you, right? And this is something to ask yourself, right? Like, how have you conditioned him? How have you created that dynamic where he's constantly so needy and so insecure with you? And Whatever is Lovely makes a great point that narcissists don't care about what you need. And they really don't, because narcissists make it all about them all the time. And I understand that. So it's going to be up. So if you ask yourself that question and you say, have I asked for what I need and am I not getting it? And you can say, yes, I have powerfully asked for what I need, and a man has not been willing to give it to me because he's either a narcissist or he's just selfish or he's not invested or whatever. Then you get to ask yourself, like, am I willing to keep, is this relationship working for me? And do I have the courage to walk away? Because here's the thing, you are worthy of being in a relationship with a man who, when you powerfully and lovingly communicate your needs, communicate your desires to him, and invite him to make you happy, you get to be with a man who says, absolutely, I would love to do that. Or show me how to do that. Let's do that, right? Let's see. We got some great comments here. Evelyn Joyce says, in my experience, overgiving and support backfire. So yeah. So again, to circle back to this as a way it pushes men away. When you collapse your frame into his, when you over support, when you overgive, you end up devaluing yourself to him, and he'll end up pulling away. He'll end up pulling back, or you may end up with a narcissist, or a controlling man, or a man who takes advantage of that dynamic. So instead of doing that, you get to be super clear from the early stages of getting to know somebody. This is who I am. This is my frame. This is what I want. This is what I need. And I'm curious if you're going to be able to support me in that, right? Like, just be open to him, but also be very clear. And here's the thing, men want to give. Men want to provide. Men want to step up, but you get to give them some guidance in how to do that, right? Yeah, Cherie, exactly. It's a way that they can provide to us. Whatever is Lovely is saying that she just walked away today. Congratulations. Give her a 1. Give Whatever is Lovely a 1 for having the courage to walk away from a relationship that does not serve her. I absolutely love that, my dear. We are so excited for you there. And it's super cool. So, and some people are responding to this one, right? Like Andrea says, I quietly resent all the time. Can any of y'all relate to that? Can any of y'all relate to just being frustrated with a man for not knowing what's in your head, for not just knowing what it is that you need? Gotta tell them, ladies. You gotta tell them. And Era has a great question here. How long do you give him to act on requests? And again, that's very subjective, right? That's subjective to the amount of time that you've been together, to the importance of the request. I think what's important, rather than like a set timeline, is to ask yourself, what are the patterns? When I ask this man for support, when I ask him for what I need, A, does he give it to me at all? And B, how long does it take him? If he drags if he doesn't give you what it is that you need at all ever, then clearly he's not the right guy for you, right? But if it takes him a really long time to give you what it is that you need and what you want, and it's consistent, he's consistent in doing that, it's worth asking him, So why does it take, you weeks or months to give me what it is that I need? Right? And get to the bottom of it, right? Communication is the only way to really bridge these gaps with men, truly, right? So we're going to go on to another one. Boom. Micromanagement. Okay, so this is another big one that some women do. Overcontrolling and micromanagement. So this is another big way that women have a tendency to push men away. It's sort of the opposite. One way is over supporting, right? Over supporting and being very much a doormat and an overgiver to men, right? The opposite of that is to over control, over manage, and micromanage a man. And why? Why do women do that? Why do you think women do that? And I'll tell you, based upon my own experience and in my working with women, if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel safe in a relationship, if they don't feel safe in the container, being in their feminine, which is fundamentally that vulnerable, inviting, relaxed, receiving space. If women don't feel safe in relationship, they are going to create that safety for themselves. So for example, if a man is not stepping into his masculine, if a man is not being the provider, being the giver, like holding space and creating safety for a woman in the masculine side of a relationship, women will step into their masculine and create that safety for themselves. That is a common dynamic and a common pattern that I see in relationship. And it's very important, ladies, that if you have this tendency to become over controlling, to step into your masculine and take control, you get to recognize that usually, foundationally, it's coming from fear. It's coming from the fact that at some level you don't feel safe because the man in your life is not willing or not able, right, to step up for you in the way that you want. And so you get to ask yourself, why is that? Why do you not feel safe in relationship? Where is the gap, right? And how is he not stepping up so you feel like you need to control and micromanage him? Because I'll tell you, when you do this in relationship, it will so often push a man away. Because if you're in that masculine side of the relational container, he can't also be there. He can't be there with you at the same time. So it's going to be up to you that if this is your pattern of over controlling and micromanagement, ask yourself, how can I step into trust and surrender with this man that I'm in relationship with? Because you get to give him a chance. You get to give him a chance to be in his masculine. And if he can't step up or he's unwilling to step up after you allow him that opportunity, then yeah, get out of there. That's okay, But if you don't give him the chance, then then the relationship is getting basically sabotaged before it's had a chance to succeed, right? So you can communicate your feelings to him around this, like, hey, I don't feel safe in this relationship container, right? Because I don't feel like you're stepping up for me. You can tell him how you're feeling. One of your greatest gifts within the relational container, ladies, is to put words on your feelings and to demonstrate to him what it means to speak from your heart, what it means to be emotionally communicative. Do you see what I'm saying? So really ask yourself, how can I express to a man? Because he might not know. He might think you're totally happy, right? Or he might have made up his own story around why you're not happy and just blamed himself and not know how he can help you, right? And so again, by being direct, by sharing what's in your heart, by letting him know, hey, I'm feeling the need to be controlling or micromanage this relationship because I don't know, I don't feel safe in our relationship, or I feel frustrated, or I feel like I'm not being heard in this relationship. It's giving him the opportunity. It's throwing him a bone and giving him an opportunity to really step up for you. So don't manufacture your own safety by assuming control of the relationship, because that where you don't feel safe, because all that's going to do at the end of the day is push men away. Do you see what I'm saying? Give me a 1 if you can relate to. Ayer Ormond says, yes, I totally get that. Let's see. So Rosa has a big, so Rosa says, as long as men are getting sex, they think the relationship is perfectly fine. And they don't know there's a problem. They don't know you're not happy. Sometimes, Rosie, yes, because you got to remember, ladies, to men, most men, physical touch is a primary love language, right? And to men, a lot of times, sex is a primary form of not just physical expression, but of emotional expression. So a lot of times in relationship, a man having sex with you is his way of saying that I love you. You see what I'm saying? And so when you have sex with a man, if you're consistently having sex with him to make him happy, he's thinking that you're also happy because you're having sex with him. So this is another time when, over supporting can be an issue, right? So it's going to be up to you to, if you're not happy, you get to tell him. And I'm not saying withhold sex, right? And as a weapon or anything. That's another big one. You want to push a man away faster than anything? Start using sex as a weapon or playing games with him like that. So tread very lightly on withholding sex as a way to punish man, or just punishing a man in any way, like as a manipulation, right? Because the instant that you go down that rabbit hole and you start playing tit for tat in relationship, then you create this sort of gamey dynamic with a man that's going to have him pull back from being connected with you, pull back from being emotionally vulnerable with you. And as Cherie said here, this is a really great point, right? Men a lot of times, have sex as a part of forming an emotional bond with a woman, whereas women need an emotional bond to have sex. So there's kind of like this chicken and the egg thing, right? And that's the thing. Love and relationship is foundationally, there's risk involved, right? It is a leap of faith to people. So, but we get to operate from the fact that the risk is worth it. The risk is worth it fundamentally. So yeah, lots of good stuff here. And another big one that I want to address here, as far as ways that women push men away, this is very, 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 very common, is this, what I like to call walls up, guns out. Walls up, guns out. This is a very common thing that women do when they go out into dating, is they go out anticipating disappointment. They go out anticipating being let down. It's based upon those earlier stories, those early narratives, that all men are looking for this, that all men are cut off from that. They go out there with their walls up and their guns out, basically saying, I'm not gonna let a man hurt me. I'm not gonna let a man take advantage of me. I'm going on this date with you, but I got my eye on you, mister. Can you relate to that? Right? A lot of women can. And ladies, when you do this, when you go out there with your walls up and your guns out, basically super committed to not be getting hurt, what kind of energy do you think you're adopting? Do you think you've created space in the relational container that you're in with this new person for him to be in his masculine? If you're in there with you, do you think he's going to feel safe being vulnerable, dropping in, relaxing with you? If he sees you looking at him with this sort of I'm not going to let you screw me over. And that's the energy that you bring into it. You're ending a potential connection before it even starts. You see what I'm saying? So look for this. Look for, are you going out into dating, into relationship with fear, waiting for the other shoe to drop? Are you carrying those wounds from your past disappointments, and have you already projected them onto this guy? Is he guilty until proven innocent? Are you sitting there with your arms crossed, right, telling him to prove it? So many women do this and they don't even realize they're doing it. And then they wonder why the men that they're connecting with aren't opening up to them. They're wondering, why are these men not being vulnerable with me? Why do these men not want to, keep following up and asking for more dates with me? Because here's the thing, ladies. If a man feels like he needs to prove himself because he's kind of guilty until proven innocent, he's not going to want to keep moving forward with you, right? He's not going to want to have to work to prove himself. You don't want to create that dynamic with men in relationship. Can you relate to that? Give me one if you can relate to that. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to answer. We have a bajillion comments. I want to answer some questions here. This is your time, ladies, to put your questions down in the chat, and I'll be sure I'll answer as many of these as I can. Tanya has been talking about her clingy husband and how he follows her around and how he's not showing up for her in relationship, and he's just being super clingy. And so a lot of times, Tanya, men are clingy because they're insecure, because they don't feel safe in relationship. Kind of like how we said earlier, right, around how women will try to control when they're feeling fearful. Men do the same thing. So a lot of times, a man who's jealous, a man who's possessive, a man who's clingy and needy is feeling deeply insecure because he either doesn't trust himself, or he doesn't trust you, or he doesn't trust the relationship. So I want you to ask yourself, how are you showing up in this relationship to him? What reason would he feel to be, super insecure with you? Is there any reason that he shouldn't feel insecure that he shouldn't feel secure in his connection with you? Have you expressed to him powerfully that, how clingy and how needy he is, how it's not serving you, how it's not working for you? Because at the end of the day, like, you get to communicate to him point blank, hey, this isn't working for me. How can we shift to create a healthier relationship dynamic? And give him space to talk about his feelings. Don't make him wrong, because he's acting this way because he feels something. He doesn't feel safe in the relationship for some reason. Maybe he has trauma with his mom. Really, you might need to go deep with this guy to get to the bottom of it. But you got to be willing to do this work, because clearly this ain't working. You know what I'm saying? I totally understand that frustration. Let's see. Maribeth Charles says, we have been together almost 7 months, and he got divorced a few months before we met. Am I pushing him away, texting him whilst he grieves? Well, Maribeth, if you're in a relationship with him, it's so he got divorced a few months before you met. Okay, so you've been dating him now 7 months. He got divorced a couple months before that. I don't think you're necessarily pushing him away by texting him, but I would like you to look at how are you texting him? Are you texting him from a space of are you being connected, and are you just looking to play with him over text message, or are you pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing over text message, right? Like, what type of texting are you doing with him? Because it doesn't matter if he's grieving or if he's not grieving. Texting can absolutely push a man away. You know what I'm saying? If you're texting from fear, if you're constantly, checking in with him all day because you feel the need to touch base with him all the time because you're not feeling secure, right? Or you're just filling the void, that isn't healthy. That isn't going to support you, right? So be conscious of why you're texting, how often you're texting, and what the energy behind it is, and you're okay. She says, thinking of you. That's beautiful. So again, there's nothing about that that's pushing him away. If you tell a man that he's thinking about you while he's in pain, that's not pushing him away. So you're You're good. Let's see some other great questions, other great comments. Let's see. Deborah asks, if you love a man with insecurity, as you described, based on previous failed marriages, what should you do to help him? Can a relationship with such a man become healthy? And yeah, well, here's the thing. When you're dating later in life, a lot of times you are going to be in relationships with men who have wounds, with men who have been in relationship where they've experienced trauma. So yes, the greatest way you can help a man heal the wounds, heal the pain and trauma of his past is to simply, ask him how he's doing, hold space for him to share what's coming up for him, right? Don't try to fix him, because men really don't like that. They don't like it when you start asking them, why are you feeling so bad? And you start digging hard on them. But you get to hold space for a man to be vulnerable and lead the way. Lead with vulnerability. Lead with, hey, so I feel like you're struggling with something right now. Just so you know, I'd love to talk to you about it. I've also been in pain the same way. I've experienced loss. I've experienced betrayal around my relationship, around my connection, and I would love to talk to you about it. So if you can lead the way with vulnerability and then ask him and hold space for him to share, what he's coming up with, like why he's insecure, that'll help get to the root of it. Because a lot of times that insecurity is based on unresolved wounds or pain from his past. Glitter Sparkles asks, my man has expressed that he feels like he's forcing sexual intimacy and so he has pulled back majorly. He expressed that in an argument. Okay, so the fact that it was in an argument, right, means that let's not take it necessarily literally, because things we say in the heat of the moment are not necessarily 100%, always accurate and always true. So, I think we get to start by you asking you, like, why would he say that, right? Why would he operate from that space? Why would does he always have to initiate sex? Do you not enjoy physical intimacy with him? There's a lot to unpack there, but you get to really ask yourself, have you created a space where he feels safe, like you want to have sex with him? And if you don't, why not? Because clearly, like, that must be something that he's feeling frustrated about, and you wanna not let that's a wound. If a man doesn't feel safe, I can tell you from personal experience and also from experience as a coach, if a man doesn't feel safe physically with his partner, like that sex is something that she wants and that the physical relationship is good and that he makes her happy sexually and everything. If a man doesn't feel safe and fulfilled in that aspect of a relationship, he will eventually he will eventually pull away. He will eventually disconnect, because that's a huge source of emotional fulfillment and happiness for a man. You know what I'm saying? So it's super important that I once saved a client's relationship from the verge of breakup to they're moving in together right now by inviting her and encouraging her to initiate blowjobs with her partner. Save their relationship, literally, but just by getting her to initiate, because one way to really foster safety with a man, emotional safety with a man through physical action, is by giving him a blowjob. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This is the sort of thing that, a lot of coaches won't talk about, but I will be super real with you. Like, I read a meme once. It said, a blowjob is the male equivalent of like giving a man a bouquet of flowers. Real talk. It's the truth. Kim says, I just want to say thank you. I put some of your advice to use and it has helped. Awesome. It was the way I was talking to him. You stated that if I change the tone and how you talk, he is coming around again. Exactly, Kimberly. So truly, like, ladies, the energy that you bring into these dialogues, the energy that you bring into these conversations can be transformational. right? Because a man is responding to your energy and the way you're showing up to him much more so than the words coming out of your mouth. Are you with me on that? Okay. Jennifer Pham, hi Jennifer. Nice to see you, my dear. Okay, so she's been seeing this guy for 2 months. Things have been going great, but how do we move to exclusivity and define the relationship? Woof. Should I wait for him to ask? Well, are you ready? Do you feel ready? If you're asking me this, it sounds like you are. Okay, so then the question is, I talk about this, like when to transition from dating into a relationship, right? And I did a video on this, and there's a handful of questions you get to ask yourself on this transition. So the first question to ask is, how do you feel when you're around him? Do you feel safe? Do you feel connected? Do you feel like this is somebody that you can really drop in and be emotional with? So it sounds like, on that sense, that you are. Things are heading in that direction, right? The second question is he, do you feel that he's invested in you? Is he actively curious about you? Does he sense that, do you get the sense that he's in it to win it? Is he asking you questions about your family, right? About your friends? Does he want to meet the people in your life? You know, that's one of those big things. You want to gauge if a man is invested and if he's open to that level of commitment. So that's another big question to ask. And then a third question to ask is, do you see, okay, so she's saying, yes, I feel safe and connected. Fantastic. So then the third question is, based upon the dynamic that you have right now, do you see long-term potential with him? Do you see, based upon the way that you two engage and interact, is there long-term potential with him? If you can say yes, like we have a healthy way of talking, everything's cool, I love it, then great. Chances are you guys are ready to move forward. Because if in the early stages there were already red flags, there was already a lot of problems or issues or drama or control stuff. If you're in the honeymoon phase of a relationship and things are already hard, chances are this is not a guy that you want to be in a relationship with. And so as far as beginning this conversation, you're welcome to initiate it like in a curious, open, soft way. Like you still want to do it in a feminine way and not in a fearful, controlling way. But I would ask him, you can ask him, okay, so wow, she says, yeah, we both have the same values and we both want to settle down and start a family. That's beautiful, Jennifer. So yeah, it sounds so. If you guys have similar values and similar vision and all that stuff, I mean, you literally have all the boxes checked, okay? And it's been 2 months. Yeah, so Mikkel is saying, join the course, ladies. And I couldn't agree with you more. If you haven't signed up here on for my course, Mastery of Connection, we just started. This is a whole course around creating meaningful relationships. It's free for you as a member of my community. We've got over almost 1,200 women in the Facebook group. It is a profound experience, and it's going to help you create deeper relationships from the inside out, right? And so I invite you to come and join us in this course. And Jennifer, based upon what you said, it sounds like, yeah, you're ready to move forward with this. So you might ask him, just ask him in a curious way. So just curious, like, are you seeing anybody else? Like, is there anybody else that you're dating? Just sort of like broach the subject of monogamy in a playful, curious way. And see what he says, right? Just start the conversation. You don't want to like force his hand on it, but you can open up and begin a conversation. Remember, you as the woman in the relational container, you as the feminine, you are the conductor of the emotional and communicative aspects of the relationship. So it's up to you to really like guide and initiate and lead these sort of conversations, and then throw him the ball and then give him the opportunity to rise up, right? Give him the opportunity to step deeper into his masculine. You don't want to force him to commit to you from a fearful or insecure space, but through invitation, right? Through questions and through encouragement. What does a conductor do? A conductor invites the orchestra to rise, right? Just like you want to invite this man to rise up to you and to be the man that you want him to be, and to co-create with you the relationship that you're worthy of. Are you with me? Give me a 1 if you're with me. And to all of you who, a lot of questions here. that I wish I could answer, but I mean, I'll be here all night if I did that. And I want to keep this live at an hour. So for all of you who haven't had a chance to get your questions answered, I invite you to put your question in the comments, and I will be answering questions in the comments. So copy and paste your question into the comment section of this show, and also sign up for Mastery of Connection. Sign up for my free course. A link to it is up on the thing, and I'll put another link down here in the comments. There's also one in the caption of this video. We do live coaching twice a week with me, so there'll be lots more opportunities to engage and connect with me over the course of this month. And if you're new to my channel, take a second, hit that little subscribe button, and I'd love to have you as part of our tribe over here. And thank you so much for joining me on this live. I love doing this. I love connecting with you live in this dynamic container every week. And have a happy Thanksgiving for everybody over here in America and across the world. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, I really appreciate you so much. I'm going to go eat a bunch of turkey. I am signing off for a few days, and lots of love to each and every one of you. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.